Welcome in, everyone, ready to dive deep into critical thinking.
Always ready for a good deep dive.
But, like, not the kind that makes your head spin, right?
Exactly.
We're talking about how we can actually, like, nurture this skill
Okay, I like it.
from, get this, childhood.
Oh, wow, starting early. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, and then, we'll see how it all plays out with our beliefs.
Interesting. Beliefs. You mean like the big stuff?
The big stuff, exactly, like religion.
Okay, you've got my attention.
Good, because we've got some awesome sources to pull from.
You're laying on me.
Bright Horizons, they're like the pros when it comes to kids learning.
Nice. So we'll get the early years covered.
And then some research on reasoning and religion. It's pretty wild.
You've got me hooked already.
But first, let's define what critical thinking actually is.
Yeah, let's break it down.
Bright Horizons says it's about making sense of info, analyzing it,
That's okay.
and then, bam, you form your own conclusions.
So it's not just about taking things at face value.
Not at all.
You know what's so important, especially now,
Yeah.
with information overload everywhere.
Tell me about it.
Critical thinking is less about being cynical and more about being a thoughtful consumer.
I love that. A thoughtful consumer of information. It's like you're choosing what you believe.
Exactly. You're in control.
So how do we raise these tiny critical thinkers?
Tiny critical thinkers. I love that.
Bright Horizons has some, honestly, surprisingly simple tips.
Really? Like what?
Okay, so play. It's like huge EE, building with blocks.
Yeah, what about it?
Turns out that's basically problem-solving 101.
I can see that.
Then there's this idea. It's called the power of the pause.
Okay, power of the pause.
I'm listening.
Instead of jumping in to fix things for our kids,
Well, we've all been there.
we gotta let them struggle a bit.
Well, why is that?
Well, it builds resilience, right?
Right. Makes sense.
And it teaches them, to test out ideas.
To experiment.
Exactly. Not just go with the first thing that pops in their head. So they learn to think for themselves, essentially.
Yes. And, oh my gosh, open-ended questions.
Oh, I love a good open-ended question.
They're game changers. Instead of giving kids the answer,
What do you do?
you turn the question back on them.
But how? Give me an example.
Like, what do you think is happening here?
Oh, so they have to really think about it?
Right. Bright Horizons even has this example. Instead of saying, that's wrong.
Which is the automatic response for so many of us.
I know. Try saying, interesting. Tell me why you think that.
Oh, that's good. So it validates their thinking but keeps the conversation open.
And it reminded me of that YouTube video we watched.
Oh, yeah, the one about how easy it is to spot flaws.
In beliefs we don't hold.
Yes, so it's like our own biases.
We're totally at play, yeah.
We gravitate towards things that confirm what we already think.
It's crazy how powerful that is.
And that's where critical thinking comes in.
To, break us out of that, right?
Exactly. It's like a challenge to step outside those comfy zones.
And see things from other perspectives.
Absolutely.
Which brings us to the research on reasoning and religion.
Oh, yes, the religious angle. This should be good.
There were some really interesting findings, potentially linking, get this,
What's the link?
dogmatic belief
Being really sure you're right.
with, weaker conflict detection skills.
Huh. So the more certain you are about something, the less likely you are to spot inconsistencies.
That's what the research suggests, yeah.
Okay, now that's interesting. But wait, doesn't that mean that religious people aren't good critical thinkers?
No, hold on. It's more nuanced than that. It's not about intelligence or capability.
Okay, so what's the takeaway here?
It seems like strong, unwavering belief
Okay, strong belief.
could in some cases make it harder to spot conflicts in
I
information.
can see both sides. Got it.
And they used a really cool example, the color word test.
Oh, yeah. Where you got to say the color, but the word spells out a different one.
Exactly. It messes with your brain.
It's called the Stroop effect, right?
Yeah. And the research is saying
Yeah.
people with really deep-seated beliefs
Mm.
might struggle more with that kind of mental switcheroo.
Like their brains are so used to thinking in a certain way.
It's hard to break out of it.
Fascinating. So it's not about labeling anyone a bad thinker.
Right.
It's about understanding these cognitive biases we all have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how they can, really shape our view,
As our interpretation.
especially on stuff we feel strongly about.
Exactly. And isn't that what Bright Horizons was saying about encouraging kids to think ahead?
With multiple solutions, yeah.
We're training them to be more flexible thinkers.
Preparing them for the real world
Or you've got to consider different viewpoints.
and make tough decisions.
Right.
Wow, we've already covered so much.
We have, haven't we? But we're just getting started.
And that research about the people who left their religion,
The apostates.
yeah? Remember how they scored higher on those reasoning tests?
Yeah, higher than the people who, like, converted to a religion.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Makes you think, what's going on there?
It really does.
Aha.
More research is definitely needed.
But it makes you wonder, could it be?
What?
Like, the act of questioning one big belief?
Religion, you mean?
Yeah. Could that make you question, like, everything?
Interesting. So questioning one big thing opens the door to questioning more things.
That's a domino effect for your brain.
That's a cool way to think about it.
And it all goes back to what we were saying before, right?
About.
Fostering critical thinking from, like, day one.
Right. So when they're older,
They're ready. They've got the tools to deal with all the complicated stuff.
belief systems, ideologies.
Like, we're setting them up for success in a world that's full of, you know,
tough choices.
tough choices.
It's
Exactly.
about giving them a solid foundation, wouldn't you say?
A foundation of, like, informed decision-making?
Not just about religion, though.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
About everything.
And it's important to remember critical thinking isn't about, like,
Debunking stuff.
debunking. Yeah. Or disproving things just for the sake of it.
It's about, like, looking at all the angles.
Exactly. Evaluating evidence, forming your own conclusions.
Based on facts and logic.
Precisely.
And being open to changing your mind.
If there's new information,
Always learning.
thinking about all this, it makes me wonder, what if we taught critical thinking alongside religious education?
Whoa, that's a big one.
Right. It's never really talked about. But imagine,
No.
from a young age, you learn about your faith,
Okay.
but you're also encouraged to, like, really examine it.
Examine it.
Yeah, understand the history.
Yeah.
Different interpretations.
So it's not about, like, getting rid of faith,
Not all.
but, like, making it richer.
Enriching it, exactly. A more nuanced understanding.
You're empowering people to, like, really engage with what they believe.
And think for themselves.
But how would that even work? Like a curriculum
It would be tricky, right, to weave critical thinking into religious education.
without, like, bias creeping in.
Exactly. But I think it's possible.
Like maybe teaching about the history of religion,
Yeah, and philosophy.
comparing different beliefs.
Giving them the tools to, like, analyze the texts.
That would be amazing.
It would be.
It would impact not just their understanding of religion.
But their critical thinking skills in general.
They'd be better at processing information about anything.
More discerning, you could say.
And think about it, maybe it could even lead to
What?
more constructive conversations about religion.
Respectful dialogue, even when people disagree.
That would be incredible.
Wouldn't it?
It's inspiring, really,
How so?
to think that incorporating critical thinking into everything
Education. Life.
could have such a positive ripple effect.
I think so too.
It's a reminder that critical thinking isn't just some, like, academic thing,
It's a life skill.
a vital life skill,
It helps us navigate the world.
and make informed decisions.
Absolutely.
It all comes back to, like, those basic tips from Bright Horizons.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Who would have thought, right?
What do you mean?
That just letting a kid, struggle with a puzzle
Yeah.
could be such a huge lesson in critical thinking.
It really shows you how important those early experiences are.
They shape how our brains develop.
For sure. Encourage exploration, problem solving,
From the very beginning.
and you're setting them up for a lifetime of,
Curiosity.
curiosity, asking questions.
I'm totally going to try that line.
Which one?
The interesting, tell me why you think that one.
Oh, yeah. With your niece and nephew.
It's so much better than just saying, you're wrong.
It encourages them to think without shutting down the conversation.
It's something we could all use a little more of, honestly.
What do you mean?
Even as adults. Especially now. With, like,
All the stuff online.
it's so easy to get stuck in our little bubbles.
Echo chambers.
Yes. You're surrounded by people who agree with you.
And then you wonder.
Why you can't see things from another perspective.
Exactly. It's like we're holding ourselves back.
And that's where,
Critical thinking saves the day.
it's the key. It's like the antidote to,
Being stuck.
to being closed-minded.
It's about seeking out different viewpoints.
Challenging your own assumption.
Being open to the fact that...
Might be wrong.
Exactly. And that's okay.
It's a sign that you're, like,
Still learning.
you've got a curious mind.
Never stop learning.
Because you realize
What?
critical thinking isn't just about, like, information.
It's a way of thinking.
Yes. A mindset.
A willingness to
Question.
explore.
Engage with the world, but, like, thoughtfully.
Well said.
With nuance.
So, to everyone listening,
Yeah.
Embrace those critical thinking principles
Not just in school, though.
in your life. Every day.
When you're reading the news.
Having a debate.
Or just thinking about what you believe.
Exactly.
Remember, question everything. Consider different perspectives.
And don't be afraid to admit.
What?
You might not have all the answers. Because at the end of the day,
What?
Critical thinking isn't about tearing things down. It's about building something better.
A deeper understanding of ourselves.
And the world around us.
And on that note,
yeah,
I think we've reached the end of our deep dive.
into the fascinating world of critical thinking.
It's been a pleasure.
Always a good time.
Keep those minds curious, everyone.
And keep those questions coming. Until next time.
Happy deep diving.